In the vast sea of human interaction, how do we truly know if someone values us for who we are, or if they're simply using us to fulfill their own needs? Much like navigating a storm, recognizing the hidden intentions behind someone's smiles, words, or actions requires both insight and a calm, discerning mind. In this video, we will delve into 15 powerful signs that will help you determine whether you are being used. The knowledge you gain here will empower you, not only to safeguard your emotional well-being, but also to cultivate healthier, more meaningful relationships. Stay with us to the end, and you'll not only learn how to detect these subtle behaviors, but also how to apply the wisdom of Stoicism to remain grounded and resilient in the face of manipulation. The journey we are about to embark on together is not merely about identifying toxic patterns. It is about reclaiming your strength and building a life of clarity, honesty, and self-respect. Let's begin with the first sign: diminishing comments. 1. Diminishing comments. The silent attack on your self-worth. In every relationship, words have immense power. They can uplift or they can erode the very foundation of who you are. Have you ever found yourself at the receiving end of comments that seem harmless at first glance, yet they leave a lingering feeling of inadequacy? These subtle, diminishing remarks may be cloaked in humor or framed as casual banter, but over time, they chip away at your self-esteem and confidence. Those who use others are masters at employing this tactic. By constantly trivializing your achievements, mocking your aspirations, or showing indifference to your struggles, they shift the balance of the relationship. Why do they do this? Because when your self-esteem is low, it makes you more vulnerable, easier to manipulate, and more likely to seek their approval. They feed off your doubt, ensuring you remain in a place of insecurity. But why do we allow this? Often, we may excuse these comments as jokes or believe that we are being overly sensitive. The reality, however, is that diminishing comments are a calculated move to keep you in a subordinate position, while they elevate their own. This behavior is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of their own insecurities and their need to assert dominance. Think of it like a battlefield, where their words are weapons designed to quietly wear down your defenses. It is crucial to recognize these comments for what they truly are, a form of psychological warfare. Once you become aware of them, ask yourself, why am I tolerating this? What impact are these words having on my self-perception? Reflect on these questions through the lens of Stoicism, which teaches us that external opinions should not dictate our internal sense of worth. As Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If you allow these diminishing remarks to shape your thoughts, you are handing over your peace of mind to someone who does not deserve it. How do we combat this? The first step is setting boundaries. Recognize that any relationship where you are constantly diminished is toxic. Whether it's a friend, a colleague, or even a loved one, you must make it clear that their behavior is unacceptable. If the situation does not improve, it may be time to distance yourself. Surround yourself with those who encourage your growth, not those who find ways to belittle your progress. As you consider this, remember that every interaction is an opportunity to practice Stoicism, to remain calm in the face of adversity, and to not let others dictate your inner tranquility. Take a moment to reflect on the relationships in your life. Are there any where you feel smaller, less capable, or less valuable after every interaction? Recognizing this is the first step toward reclaiming your sense of self-worth. With this newfound clarity, let's move to the next red flag, one that is often more visible but equally damaging: broken promises. Broken. 2. Broken promises. The deceptive dance of words and actions. Imagine someone promising to stand by you when things get tough, yet when the moment of need arrives, they disappear without a trace. Broken promises often feel like a betrayal, a crack in the foundation of trust that leaves you feeling disillusioned and hurt. Words, in their most genuine form, are meant to be followed by actions. When someone's words become hollow, it's a clear sign that their commitment to you is equally empty. Why is it so easy to get caught in the trap of broken promises? Those who use others often master the art of persuasion. They paint vivid pictures of support, loyalty, and care, offering words that sound so convincing, we believe them without question. But when the time comes for them to fulfill their promises, there is always an excuse, a reason for their absence, or an unfulfilled expectation. This pattern is not accidental. It's a calculated strategy designed to keep you hopeful and invested in a relationship where they take more than they give. So, what should you ask yourself? When promises are broken, pause and reflect. Am I making excuses for their behavior? How often have I relied on their words only to be let down? In the philosophy of Stoicism, we learn that the only things within our control are our own actions and responses, not the promises of others. If we rely too heavily on the commitments of those who consistently fail us, we hand over control of our peace of mind to someone who cannot be trusted. Epictetus reminds us, it is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. How do you react when promises are broken? Do you hold on to hope that next time will be different, or do you take decisive action to protect your heart? Broken promises reveal a person's true motivations. They're often a manipulation tool used to keep you invested in the relationship, giving more of yourself in exchange for nothing. These people are aware that by offering a glimpse of support or commitment, they can keep you hanging on, hoping for better times ahead. But if the pattern repeats, you must ask, how much more of my energy, trust, and emotional investment am I willing to give to someone who continually lets me down? Through the lens of Stoicism, it becomes clear that those who break promises are not worthy of our attention or our emotional energy. Their words are but distractions from the reality of their character. We must focus on what is in our control, our response. We cannot force someone to be loyal or trustworthy, but we can choose to no longer rely on them. Marcus Aurelius once noted, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." In this case, the best way to regain your power is to stop expecting consistency from someone who has proven themselves unreliable. When promises are broken repeatedly, it's time to reassess the relationship. Set clear boundaries and decide whether this person has a place in your life. If they do not bring honesty and commitment to the table, then their presence only serves to drain you. True relationships are built on a foundation of trust, where promises made are promises kept. As you reflect on this, consider the next red flag that often follows broken promises: unilateral benefit. This pattern reveals even more clearly how one-sided relationships can become. 3. Unilateral benefit: the parasite and the host. In any healthy relationship, there is a balance, a give and take that nourishes both sides. However, when someone is using you, that balance is absent. Unilateral benefit refers to the dynamic where one person constantly gives while the other only takes. Over time, this can feel like emotional, financial, or practical depletion as your resources are drained by someone who never reciprocates. In many ways, this relationship mirrors the natural world, where a parasite benefits from its host without ever contributing to its well-being. Have you ever found yourself always being the one who gives your time, your money, your emotional energy, while the other person is conspicuously absent when you need something in return? This is the essence of unilateral benefit, a dynamic where you are viewed not as a partner or an equal, but as a resource to be used. Why do people fall into this pattern? Often, it begins innocently enough. Perhaps a friend asks for a favor or borrows money with the promise of repayment. But slowly, the favors become more frequent and the promises of reciprocation fade into excuses. Before you know it, you find yourself continually giving while the other person benefits, offering little or nothing in return. This behavior, while subtle at first, reveals a fundamental selfishness, a lack of empathy and care for your well-being. What questions should you be asking yourself? Reflect. Am I constantly the one sacrificing? Do I feel drained after every interaction with this person? Is their presence in my life more of a burden than a benefit? In Stoicism, the value of reciprocity is critical to healthy relationships. Marcus Aurelius writes, "Men exist for the sake of one another. Relationships should enrich, not deplete." When someone only takes without giving back, they view you as a means to an end, a tool for their convenience rather than a valued companion. But why do we stay in such relationships? One reason is hope. We often hold on to the belief that the other person will change, that they will one day recognize the imbalance and begin to give as much as they take. However, Stoicism teaches us to see the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. Hope, in this case, is not virtuous. It blinds us to the reality that this person is unlikely to change. Seneca wisely noted, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." By imagining a future where this person finally reciprocates, we suffer far more than if we accept the truth and make the necessary changes. The reality is that those who only seek unilateral benefit from you will rarely, if ever, change. They do not view relationships as partnerships based on mutual care and respect. Instead, they see you as a resource, one that they will continue to drain as long as you allow it. The time has come to ask yourself, how much longer will I allow this imbalance to persist? Setting boundaries is essential. You have the power to decide when enough is enough. Stoicism reminds us to protect our inner peace by not engaging with those who deplete us. To restore balance in your life, you may need to distance yourself from those who only take. It's a necessary step in reclaiming your energy and well-being. If these 3 signs resonate with you, I encourage you to keep watching. There is much more to explore. As we move forward, you will continue to gain insight and tools that will help you build healthier, more balanced relationships. Stay with me until the end, and together, we will uncover all 15 signs of being used. Next, let's turn to a crucial emotional red flag that can erode your self-worth without you even realizing it: disregard for your emotions or needs. 4. Disregard for your emotions or needs. The silent neglect. In any relationship, whether with a friend, partner, or colleague, emotional support is one of the pillars that hold the connection together. When someone truly values you, they are attuned to your emotions and needs. They offer empathy, understanding, and a willingness to listen when you are struggling. However, when someone is using you, they exhibit a distinct lack of care for your emotional well-being. Their disregard for your feelings is not only neglectful, it's manipulative. Have you ever shared your struggles only to be met with disinterest or indifference? This is a common behavior among those who use others. They will prioritize their own needs and desires while dismissing yours as unimportant. This disregard can manifest in various ways. Perhaps they interrupt you when you're talking about something important, or they change the subject when the conversation shifts to your problems. In any case, the message is clear: your feelings do not matter to them. But why do they act this way? For those who use others, emotional support is a one-way street. They expect you to be there when they need a listening ear or a shoulder to cry on, but when the roles are reversed, they disappear. This is not just insensitivity, it's a calculated tactic to maintain control. By neglecting your emotional needs, they create a dynamic where you are constantly seeking validation and support, which they rarely provide. What should you ask yourself here? Consider, do I feel heard and understood in this relationship? Is my emotional well-being valued, or am I always the one offering support? In Stoicism, emotional balance is vital. We must cultivate relationships that nourish our emotional health, not those that drain it. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. When you are in relationships where your emotions are consistently ignored, it becomes difficult to maintain a positive and peaceful mind. Reflect on the relationships in your life. Do they uplift your emotional well-being, or do they leave you feeling invisible and unheard? This awareness is the first step in recognizing that this neglect is not your fault. It is a reflection of the other person's selfishness and inability to form a reciprocal emotional connection. The next step is to protect yourself. Stoicism teaches us the importance of self-preservation in the face of adversity. If someone continuously neglects your emotional needs, it may be time to reconsider their place in your life. Set boundaries and make it clear that your emotions are valuable and you will not tolerate being disregarded. If they continue to dismiss your needs, it's time to walk away. As you process this, let's now turn to another manipulative tactic, emotional manipulation. 5. Emotional manipulation, the hidden strings of control. Emotional manipulation is one of the most insidious forms of control. It often begins subtly, with the manipulator appearing as attentive, kind, and supportive. However, this facade quickly unravels once they start pressing emotional buttons to gain control over your feelings. Have you ever been in a situation where someone alternates between uplifting you and then bringing you down, leaving you constantly unsure of where you stand? This roller coaster of emotions is not by accident. It is a deliberate strategy to create dependency. The emotional manipulator knows exactly when to give you praise and when to withhold it, keeping you in a perpetual state of seeking their approval. Think of it like a puppet master, pulling the strings, making you question your own emotions and actions. The praise, when it comes, is fleeting and often conditional, while the criticism is sharp and demeaning. This imbalance destabilizes your emotional core, making you doubt your self-worth and leaving you vulnerable to further manipulation. Why do they manipulate? The goal of emotional manipulation is to keep you dependent on the manipulator for emotional validation. They create a sense of insecurity, making you feel as though you need them to feel whole. By alternating between warmth and coldness, they ensure that you are constantly seeking their approval, trapped in a cycle of anxiety and self-doubt. Stoicism teaches us to be wary of those who seek to control us through our emotions. As Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Recognizing emotional manipulation is the first step in breaking free from its hold. How can you tell if you are being emotionally manipulated? Ask yourself, am I constantly second-guessing my feelings in this relationship? Does this person make me feel good only when it suits them and terrible at other times? When someone uses emotional extremes to keep you off balance, it's a clear sign of manipulation. Healthy relationships do not involve such dramatic fluctuations. Instead, they are built on consistent support, understanding, and respect. How should you respond? Once you recognize that emotional manipulation is at play, it is essential to regain your emotional independence. Stoicism teaches us to seek peace within ourselves, not in the validation of others. As Marcus Aurelius wisely noted, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If your thoughts are constantly colored by someone else's manipulations, you will never achieve tranquility. Focus on controlling your own responses rather than trying to control the manipulator's behavior. Set boundaries. Make it clear that you will not tolerate being toyed with emotionally. In the end, the manipulator's power lies in your reaction. By withdrawing your emotional investment and no longer seeking their approval, you remove their control over you. The manipulator thrives on your need for validation. Once that need is gone, they lose their grip. Now that we've uncovered the harmful effects of emotional manipulation, it's time to reflect. Have you ever experienced this emotional push and pull in your relationships? If so, share your thoughts in the comments below. By acknowledging and discussing these patterns, we can help each other break free from these toxic cycles. Next, let's explore a sign that may seem less obvious, but is equally damaging: lack of genuine support. 6. Lack of genuine support, alone in the crowd. In a truly supportive relationship, you should feel like you're never alone, even when facing the toughest challenges. But when someone is using you, the feeling of isolation often creeps in. Even when you're surrounded by people, the person using you may give the appearance of support, perhaps offering empty words or gestures, but their actions tell a different story. Have you ever faced a difficult moment only to find that someone who claims to care about you is nowhere to be found? Genuine support is not just about being present during the good times. It's about standing by your side when things get tough, offering help without expecting anything in return. A person who is using you will only offer support when it benefits them, or when they can reap some form of personal gain from the situation. When the going gets tough, their absence speaks louder than their words ever could. What should you ask yourself? Consider, when I'm struggling, is this person truly there for me? Or do they disappear when I need them the most? This lack of support is not an accident. It's a deliberate choice by someone who values the relationship only for what they can get out of it. They are there when things are easy, but when you need help, they vanish. In Stoicism, the importance of surrounding yourself with virtuous individuals is emphasized. Relationships should serve as a source of mutual growth, not as a drain on your energy. Seneca once said, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you." When someone lacks genuine support for you, they are not contributing to your growth. They are holding you back. How can you address this? Start by assessing the relationships in your life. Do you feel supported in your endeavors, your struggles, and your growth? Or do you often find yourself standing alone when you need others the most? This awareness is the first step. Once you identify those who lack genuine support, the next step is to set clear boundaries. Let them know that support is a two-way street. If they are not willing to be there for you when it matters, it may be time to reconsider their place in your life. In a world governed by Stoicism, we understand that our happiness and peace of mind depend not on external factors, but on the strength of our own character and the quality of our relationships. Marcus Aurelius reminds us to focus on what truly matters, those who stand with us in both good times and bad. Next, we turn our attention to a more subtle yet equally destructive behavior: selective availability. 7. Selective availability, the convenience of disappearing. Imagine a friend or partner who is available only when it suits them. They disappear when you need them the most, only to resurface when they stand to benefit from the relationship. This is what we call selective availability, a hallmark of someone who uses you. Have you ever noticed that certain people in your life are always too busy when you need support, but suddenly become available when they require a favor? This behavior is a deliberate tactic to maintain control over the relationship. By controlling when they are available, the person using you keeps you in a state of constant uncertainty. You begin to doubt whether you can rely on them, but their occasional acts of kindness keep you hanging on, hoping that things will improve. This inconsistency is emotionally exhausting and leaves you feeling undervalued. What questions should you ask? Reflect. Does this person only reach out when they need something? Am I always the one initiating contact or offering support while they only show up when it's convenient for them? In Stoicism, we are reminded that our peace of mind should not be dependent on the whims of others. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus advises, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. If someone's actions show a lack of availability and care, don't waste your time explaining what you need. Observe their behavior and act accordingly. Selective availability reveals a relationship that is built on convenience, not on mutual respect or care. The person using you chooses when to engage, ensuring that their needs are met while yours are pushed aside. This dynamic creates an emotional imbalance where you find yourself constantly reaching out for connection while they control the flow of the relationship. How should you respond? Stoicism teaches us the value of self-reliance and the importance of not placing our emotional well-being in the hands of others. If someone is selectively available, it's a sign that they are not invested in the relationship. Set boundaries, make your expectations clear, and be prepared to step back if they continue to treat you as an option rather than a priority. Take a moment to reflect on your relationships. Are there people who only seem to engage with you when it benefits them? Do you find yourself constantly seeking their attention or approval? If so, it's time to reclaim your emotional energy. Surround yourself with those who are consistently present, who offer support, not because it benefits them, but because they genuinely care. Now that we have explored selective availability, let's turn to a behavior that can have a devastating impact on your self-worth. Making you feel guilty. 8. Making you feel guilty. The subtle art of emotional manipulation. Guilt is one of the most powerful tools in the arsenal of someone who seeks to use you. It is not always an overt, aggressive tactic. More often than not, it is subtle, carefully crafted to make you question your own actions and worth. Have you ever found yourself doing something not out of genuine desire or care, but out of an overwhelming sense of guilt? This is emotional manipulation in its most refined form, a way to exploit your empathy, sense of duty, and desire to be perceived as good. Guilt tripping is a common strategy of manipulators because it preys on your natural inclination to help others and to avoid feeling selfish. They may remind you of favors they've done for you, or frame their requests in such a way that denying them makes you seem unkind or heartless. The truth is, this tactic is a calculated effort to make you feel responsible for their well-being, a manipulation of your emotions that leads to compliance, even when it goes against your best interests. How does this happen? It often starts with small, seemingly harmless requests, which gradually increase in size and significance. Over time, you find yourself constantly bending over backward to meet their needs, always feeling guilty if you don't comply. The manipulator might say things like, "After all I've done for you," or "I can't believe you would refuse me this after everything." These statements are designed to make you question your integrity, positioning them as the victim and you as the one responsible for their unhappiness. But why do we allow it? In many cases, guilt tripping is effective because it taps into our deeply ingrained desire to be good, to be seen as generous, and to avoid conflict. However, Stoicism reminds us that our actions should be guided by reason and virtue, not by the emotions others impose upon us. Epictetus teaches us, "No man is free who is not master of himself." When we allow others to control our actions through guilt, we lose mastery over our own decisions and well-being. What questions should you be asking yourself? Reflect. Am I doing this because I truly want to, or because I feel guilty? Am I constantly sacrificing my own needs and desires to avoid feeling like a bad person? If you find that guilt is the primary motivator behind many of your actions, it's time to reassess the relationship. Stoicism encourages us to act in accordance with our own values, not out of fear of judgment or emotional manipulation. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. The same principle applies here. If you are being driven by guilt, rather than by a genuine desire to help, the action is not aligned with virtue. How do you break free? The first step is to recognize the pattern. Manipulators rely on your inability to say no, and they feed off your guilt to maintain control. Once you see this, the next step is to reclaim your power by setting clear boundaries. Understand that you are not responsible for another person's happiness, and you do not owe them endless favors simply because they try to make you feel guilty. In Stoicism, we are reminded to act from a place of inner strength, guided by our own sense of duty and integrity, not by the emotional manipulations of others. When someone uses guilt to control you, they are not acting from a place of respect or care. They are acting from selfishness. By recognizing this, you can begin to assert your boundaries, refuse unreasonable requests, and break free from the cycle of guilt that keeps you trapped. As you consider this, take a moment to reflect on the relationships in your life. Are there people who regularly make you feel guilty in order to get what they want? Have you been bending to their will, even when it feels wrong? By recognizing this pattern, you can start to regain control of your life and your decisions. If this resonates with you, I encourage you to share your experiences in the comments. Let's create a conversation where we can help each other recognize these toxic patterns and support one another in reclaiming our power. Now, let's move to another sign of being used that often goes hand in hand with guilt manipulation: unilateral conversations. 9. Unilateral conversations, when dialogue becomes a monologue. In a healthy relationship, communication is a two-way street, a balanced exchange where both people feel heard, respected, and valued. However, when someone is using you, conversations quickly become one-sided. Have you ever noticed that certain people talk endlessly about themselves, but when it's your turn to speak, they tune out or change the subject? This is what we call unilateral conversations, and it's a clear sign that the relationship is imbalanced. A person who uses you is not interested in listening to your thoughts, feelings, or experiences. Instead, they dominate the conversation, using you as a sounding board for their own problems, achievements, or opinions. When you try to share something personal, they either cut you off, offer a disinterested response, or immediately shift the focus back to themselves. Over time, this dynamic leaves you feeling unheard and unimportant, reducing your role in the relationship to that of a passive listener. Why do they do this? Unilateral conversations are a manifestation of ego. The person who uses you sees themselves as the center of the universe, and they expect you to play the role of the audience. In their mind, your purpose in the relationship is to validate their feelings, affirm their experiences, and offer support, without expecting the same in return. This selfishness is a hallmark of a toxic relationship where mutual respect and care are absent. How should you reflect on this? Ask yourself, do I feel heard in this relationship, or do I spend most of my time listening? Does this person show genuine interest in my life, or do they only care about their own? In Stoicism, we learn that relationships should be based on mutual benefit and shared understanding. Seneca said, "One of the most beautiful qualities of true friendship is to understand and to be understood." If the relationship is constantly one-sided, it lacks the balance and reciprocity that are essential for its growth. How can you address this? The first step is to recognize the pattern and set boundaries. If you feel like the conversation is always about them, try steering the dialogue toward your own thoughts and feelings. If they resist or show disinterest, This is a clear indication that they are not invested in a true partnership. Stoicism teaches us that we must choose our companions wisely, surrounding ourselves with those who uplift and support us, rather than those who drain us. If unilateral conversations are a constant in your relationship, it may be time to distance yourself from this person. Healthy communication is a pillar of any meaningful connection. Do you feel drained after every conversation with this person? Do you leave interactions feeling unheard and unimportant? If so, it's time to reassess the relationship and prioritize your own voice and experiences. You deserve to be heard just as much as you listen to others. Now that we have explored the impact of unilateral conversations, let's delve into another form of disrespect that can erode the foundations of any relationship: lack of personal interest. 10. Lack of personal interest. When your life becomes irrelevant. When someone is using you, they are not truly invested in who you are as a person. Have you ever been in a relationship where the other person seems indifferent to your passions, your struggles, or your successes? This lack of personal interest is a sign that they are not emotionally invested in you. They see the relationship as a means to an end, not as a connection worth nurturing. People who use others often exhibit this behavior because they view relationships in transactional terms. They engage with you when it benefits them, but they show little curiosity or care about the details of your life. When you share something important or meaningful, they may offer a quick response, a dismissive remark, or no acknowledgement at all. Over time, this indifference chips away at the relationship, leaving you feeling unseen and unappreciated. Why is this important? Human beings have a fundamental need to feel understood and valued. When someone shows a lack of personal interest, it creates an emotional void, a sense of isolation even within a relationship. In Stoicism, we are reminded that relationships should enhance our lives, not detract from them. Marcus Aurelius advises, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." If someone is not interested in your growth, your well-being, or your happiness, they are not acting in the spirit of a true relationship. What questions should you ask yourself? Reflect. Does this person ask about my life, my goals, my challenges? Do they show genuine interest in who I am and what I care about? If the answer is no, it's a clear sign that the relationship is not built on mutual respect or care. Stoicism encourages us to be discerning in our relationships, to invest time and energy only in those who uplift us and contribute positively to our lives. How do you move forward? If you recognize that someone is showing a lack of personal interest, it's important to address the issue. Try to communicate your feelings. Express that you need more engagement and interest from the other person. If they respond with indifference or dismiss your concerns, it's a sign that they are not truly invested in you as a person. In such cases, Stoicism teaches us to detach ourselves from those who do not align with our values. Life is too short to waste on relationships that do not bring us joy, growth, or fulfillment. Take a moment to evaluate your connections. Are there people in your life who seem indifferent to who you are, beyond what you can offer them? If so, it's time to reevaluate their role in your life and seek out relationships that are built on genuine care and interest. As we continue, let's explore another toxic pattern: betrayal. 11. Betrayal, the ultimate breach of trust. Betrayal is like a slow poison seeping into the core of any relationship, eroding trust and stability. It's not always loud and obvious. Sometimes it is subtle, coming in the form of small lies, withheld information, or broken confidences. Have you ever found yourself questioning someone's loyalty, wondering if they are being entirely honest with you? When betrayal happens, it cracks the very foundation of the relationship, leaving you to question everything you once trusted. Why is betrayal so damaging? Trust is the cornerstone of any meaningful connection. Whether it's a friendship, partnership, or even a work relationship, without trust, the relationship crumbles. Betrayal destroys this trust, replacing it with doubt and insecurity. In Stoicism, trust and integrity are non-negotiable virtues. Seneca reminds us that a friendship that can cease has never been real. Betrayal, in any form, reveals that the bond was never as solid as you believed. Betrayal can manifest in many ways. Sometimes it is a blatant lie or a violation of loyalty, such as sharing your secrets with others or undermining your efforts behind your back. Other times, it's more covert, like when someone withholds critical information or consistently lets you down when you need them the most. In these moments, you must ask yourself, what does this reveal about their character? What does it reveal about the true nature of this relationship? How should you reflect on betrayal? Ask yourself, has this person broken my trust, either through dishonesty or through actions that go against the loyalty I believed we shared? Do I feel like I can no longer rely on them the way I once did? When trust is broken, it leaves a wound that is difficult to heal. In Stoicism, we are taught to accept the reality of human nature. People will fail us, and betrayal is an unfortunate part of life. However, this does not mean we should allow it to happen repeatedly. Marcus Aurelius advises us to live in harmony with reason, which means recognizing when a relationship is no longer built on trust and acting accordingly. What should you do when faced with betrayal? The first step is to confront the reality of the situation. Betrayal, once discovered, cannot be ignored or minimized. Stoicism teaches us that we must face unpleasant truths with courage and clarity. If someone has betrayed your trust, it's important to evaluate whether the relationship can be repaired or if it's time to let go. Some relationships can be salvaged through open, honest communication and a sincere effort to rebuild trust. However, in many cases, betrayal is a sign that the relationship was never as strong or genuine as you believed. Is forgiveness possible? In Stoicism, forgiveness is a complex topic. On one hand, we are taught to accept the imperfections of others and not hold on to anger or resentment. However, forgiveness does not mean forgetting the lessons we've learned. If someone betrays you and shows no remorse, or if the betrayal is repeated, forgiveness might not be the wisest course of action. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one. This means that, while you may forgive someone in your heart for the sake of your own peace, you are not obligated to continue the relationship. How can you heal from betrayal? Healing from betrayal requires time, reflection, and often distance from the person who has wronged you. Stoicism encourages us to focus on what is within our control, your own emotions, your response, and the actions you take moving forward. If you dwell on the betrayal or allow it to consume you, you are giving more power to the person who hurt you. Instead, seek solace in your own integrity, knowing that you acted with honor, even if the other person did not. As we reflect on betrayal, let's move to another important aspect of toxic relationships: constant competition. 12. Constant competition. When every success becomes a threat. In a healthy relationship, both individuals should celebrate each other's successes, not feel threatened by them. Have you ever noticed that certain people seem to compete with you at every turn, turning every achievement into a race? This is a sign of constant competition, where the other person views your accomplishments not as moments to celebrate, but as threats to their own sense of superiority. Why do some people constantly compete? Competition is often rooted in insecurity. The person who uses you is driven by a need to prove their superiority, and they see your achievements as diminishing their own. Rather than offering genuine support or praise, they may downplay your successes, compare them to their own, or even try to overshadow you. This behavior is not born out of malice, but out of their deep-seated fear that they are not good enough. Stoicism teaches us to rise above such petty concerns. Marcus Aurelius wisely observed, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it?" If someone is constantly competing with you, it's a reflection of their own struggles, not yours. How does this manifest in relationships? In both personal and professional relationships, the person who is constantly competing will always try to outdo you. In a work setting, they may take credit for your ideas or subtly undermine your efforts to make themselves look better. In a personal context, they may try to one-up your achievements, whether it's in fitness, finances, or even in the small details of daily life. Over time, this constant competition erodes the sense of partnership, turning the relationship into a battlefield where every interaction is a fight for dominance. What should you ask yourself? Reflect. Do I feel like I am in constant competition with this person? Do they make me feel as though I need to prove myself, rather than simply being happy for my successes? In Stoicism, competition is not a goal in relationships. Instead, the Stoics believed in focusing on one's own growth and progress, independent of how others are doing. As Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." If someone is always competing with you, it's a sign that their focus is on comparison rather than self-improvement. How can you address constant competition? The first step is to recognize that the competition is not a reflection of your worth or your abilities. It is a reflection of the other person's insecurities. Stoicism teaches us that we should not be drawn into such competitions. Instead, focus on your own path, your own growth, and your own goals. If the other person continues to compete, it may be necessary to distance yourself from them, particularly if their behavior becomes toxic or damaging to your self-esteem. Is there room for healthy competition? In certain contexts, competition can be motivating and even fun, but only if it is mutually agreed upon and does not come at the cost of the relationship. However, if the competition is one-sided, where only one person feels the need to win at all times, it becomes harmful. Stoicism reminds us that external validation, such as winning a competition, should never be the focus of our lives. True growth comes from within, and the only competition that matters is the one we have with ourselves, striving to become better than we were yesterday. As we wrap up our discussion on constant competition, let's explore another subtle but telling behavior: selective availability. 13. Selective availability, when presence is conditional. Imagine a friend or partner who only seems to appear when it suits them, when the timing is right, or when they stand to gain something. The rest of the time, they're unavailable, distant, or too busy. Have you ever experienced someone's selective availability? This person is there during the good times, but mysteriously absent during the bad, offering support only when it benefits them in some way. This behavior is not by accident. It is a deliberate pattern designed to maintain control over the relationship and extract what they need from you. Selective availability is a clear sign that someone is using you. These people show up when they can gain something, whether that's emotional support, financial assistance, or even just your attention. But when the time comes for them to reciprocate, they are nowhere to be found. The relationship, in their eyes, is purely transactional. They invest just enough effort to keep you around, but only when it's convenient for them. Why do people act this way? In many cases, selective availability is about maintaining a certain level of distance. The person wants to benefit from the relationship, but they don't want to invest in it emotionally. They don't want to deal with your problems, offer you genuine support, or be there when things get tough. By controlling their availability, they keep the relationship on their terms. They engage only when they want to, ensuring that they are never truly responsible for your well-being or happiness. What should you ask yourself? Reflect on your interactions. Is this person only around when they need something? Are they suddenly available when it benefits them, but absent when I'm the one in need? If the answer is yes, it's time to reevaluate the relationship. Selective availability creates a one-sided dynamic where you are constantly giving, offering support and attention, while the other person takes without giving back. In Stoicism, relationships are based on mutual benefit, respect, and reciprocity. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, men exist for the sake of one another. Relationships should be a source of mutual growth, not a drain on your emotional energy. How does selective availability affect you? Over time, this behavior leads to feelings of frustration, loneliness, and neglect. You might find yourself questioning whether you matter to this person at all, or whether they're simply using you for their own convenience. The emotional toll of this kind of relationship can be significant, as it creates an environment where your needs are constantly overlooked. Stoicism teaches us to guard our inner peace, and part of this is recognizing when a relationship is causing more harm than good. If someone's selective availability is leaving you feeling drained or unappreciated, it's essential to take a step back and protect your emotional well-being. What can you do about it? The first step is to recognize the pattern. Selective availability is often a subtle behavior hidden behind excuses of being busy, overwhelmed, or preoccupied with other things. But if the pattern persists, it's time to address it directly. Set boundaries with the person. Let them know that you've noticed the imbalance and that you expect more reciprocity in the relationship. If they are unwilling or unable to meet you halfway, it may be time to reconsider their place in your life. In Stoicism, we are taught to act with reason and clarity. Epictetus advises, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. If you want relationships that are balanced, respectful, and supportive, you must be willing to distance yourself from those that are not. Selective availability is a sign that the other person does not value you as an equal partner in the relationship. They are using you when it suits them and disengaging when it doesn't. How do you heal from this dynamic? Moving on from a relationship where selective availability is a constant pattern can be challenging, especially if you've invested a lot of time and energy into the connection. However, Stoicism teaches us to focus on what is within our control, our actions, our boundaries, and our choices. You cannot force someone to be available, but you can choose to no longer accept their conditional presence. By setting boundaries and prioritizing relationships that are genuinely reciprocal, you free yourself from the emotional exhaustion of one-sided connections. As you reflect on your relationships, ask yourself, are there people in my life who are only available when it suits them? How often do I feel supported versus how often I am the one doing the supporting? By answering these questions honestly, you can begin to recognize patterns of selective availability and take steps to protect your well-being. Now, let's move on to a critical aspect of toxic relationships: lack of respect. 14. Lack of respect. The quiet undermining of your dignity. Respect is the cornerstone of any healthy relationship. Without it, the connection quickly deteriorates into a toxic dynamic where one person dominates, disrespects, or even humiliates the other. Have you ever felt disrespected by someone who claims to care about you? Whether it's through dismissive comments, disregard for your boundaries, or belittling your feelings, a lack of respect is a clear indication that the relationship is unhealthy and imbalanced. What does disrespect look like? Disrespect can take many forms. It might be as subtle as someone interrupting you constantly, ignoring your opinions, or making decisions that affect you without consulting you first. Or it can be more overt, rude comments, sarcasm, or outright insults. Over time, these behaviors erode your self-esteem, making you feel small and unworthy. In Stoicism, respect is not just about courtesy. It's about recognizing the inherent dignity of every human being. Marcus Aurelius advises, treat men as they deserve, but better still, as they might deserve to be treated. Why do people show a lack of respect? Disrespect often stems from a need to assert dominance or control. The person may feel insecure or threatened by your independence, intelligence, or success, and they try to undermine you to maintain a sense of superiority. They may also simply lack empathy, failing to see the harm they're causing. In Stoicism, we learn that how others treat us is a reflection of their character, not ours. Seneca said, "He who is brave is free." Freedom, in this sense, comes from not being enslaved to the opinions or actions of others. How should you reflect on disrespect in your life? Ask yourself, do I feel respected in this relationship? Does the other person honor my boundaries, listen to my opinions, and treat me with dignity? If the answer is no, it's time to confront the situation. Stoicism teaches us to live in accordance with our values, and respect is a fundamental value in any relationship. If someone consistently disrespects you, they are not valuing you as an equal. They are undermining your worth, whether consciously or not. How do you address disrespect? The first step is to set clear boundaries. Let the person know that their behavior is unacceptable and that you expect to be treated with respect. In Stoicism, we are taught to be firm in our boundaries while remaining calm and rational. Epictetus reminds us, don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. This means that you should not waste time trying to convince someone to respect you. Simply demand it through your actions and your refusal to tolerate disrespectful behavior. If the person continues to disrespect you, it's important to take decisive action. This might mean limiting your interactions with them, or in some cases, ending the relationship altogether. Stoicism encourages us to prioritize our inner peace and integrity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." If someone is constantly disrespecting you, it's difficult to maintain the positive thoughts and emotional balance that Stoicism encourages. Removing toxic influences from your life is a necessary step toward reclaiming your peace of mind. How do you heal from disrespect? Healing from a relationship where you've been consistently disrespected takes time and self-reflection. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control, our own behavior, and our response to others. You cannot change how someone else treats you, but you can change how you respond to it. By setting boundaries and prioritizing relationships where respect is mutual, you create an environment where your dignity is honored and your self-esteem can flourish. Take a moment to evaluate the relationships in your life. Are there people who consistently disrespect you, either through their words or their actions? If so, it's time to take a stand for your self-respect. Stoicism reminds us that we are responsible for protecting our own peace of mind, and that means removing ourselves from situations where we are not treated with the respect we deserve. Let's now explore another sign that someone is using you. Absence in critical moments. 15. Absence in critical moments, the true test of loyalty. In any meaningful relationship, whether it's with a friend, partner, or colleague, one of the clearest indicators of genuine care and commitment is how someone shows up for you in moments of need. Have you ever faced a difficult situation, only to find that the person you thought you could rely on was nowhere to be found? This absence in critical moments is one of the most telling signs that someone is using you rather than genuinely caring about you. Why do people disappear when you need them most? In many cases, the person's absence is a reflection of their priorities. When everything is going well, they are more than happy to be around, enjoying the benefits of the relationship, whether that's emotional support, financial help, or companionship. But when times get tough, when you are facing a crisis or need someone to lean on, they vanish. Their absence reveals that their interest in the relationship is conditional. It's based on what they can gain, not on a genuine connection. What should you ask yourself? Reflect. Is this person only present during the good times but absent when I need their support? Do they disappear when the relationship requires effort, care, or emotional investment? If the answer is yes, it's a sign that they are not truly invested in you or the relationship. In Stoicism, loyalty and support are critical aspects of any meaningful connection. As Marcus Aurelius advises, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. If someone is absent during your critical moments, they are not embodying the virtues of loyalty, care, or integrity. How does absence affect you? When someone you care about disappears in times of need, it can leave you feeling abandoned, betrayed, and isolated. You might begin to question your own worth, wondering if you are asking for too much, or if you've somehow driven them away. Stoicism teaches us to remain anchored in our own self-worth, regardless of how others treat us. Epictetus reminds us, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This means that your sense of value should not be dependent on the presence or absence of others. You are whole and complete, even if others fail to show up for you. How should you respond to someone's absence in critical moments? The first step is to acknowledge the reality of the situation. If someone consistently fails to be there for you when you need them most, it's important to recognize that this is not a relationship based on mutual support. Stoicism teaches us to accept things as they are, not as we wish them to be. Once you see the pattern of absence, you can begin to make decisions about how to proceed. Can you rebuild the relationship? In some cases, a person's absence might be due to external factors, stress, personal struggles, or circumstances beyond their control. However, if this behavior is part of a larger pattern, it's a sign that the relationship is fundamentally unbalanced. Stoicism encourages us to seek relationships that nurture our growth and well-being. If someone is consistently absent when you need them, it may be time to distance yourself and seek out connections with people who are truly present and supportive. How do you heal from the feeling of abandonment? Healing from a relationship where someone has been absent in your critical moments requires self-reflection and self-compassion. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control, our own reactions, decisions, and emotional well-being. You cannot force someone to be there for you, but you can choose to no longer rely on them. By surrounding yourself with people who genuinely care about you and are willing to stand by your side during both the good and the bad times, you create a network of support that aligns with the Stoic ideal of mutual respect and care. Are there people who are absent when you need them the most? Have you been giving too much of yourself to those who do not reciprocate your care? By recognizing these patterns, you can begin to take steps toward building healthier, more balanced relationships. As we've explored in this video, being used by someone is a painful experience, but it's also a powerful opportunity for growth. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control, our responses, our boundaries, and our choices. If you've recognized any of these behaviors in your relationships, it's time to take action. By identifying and addressing these toxic patterns, you can begin to build relationships that are based on mutual respect, trust, and care. Surround yourself with those who uplift you, who are present during both good times and bad, and who treat you with the dignity and kindness you deserve. If you've found this video helpful, I encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's continue the conversation and support each other in recognizing and overcoming toxic relationships. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to help others on their journey toward healthier, more fulfilling connections. Thank you for joining me today, and I wish you all the strength, wisdom, and clarity to build relationships that truly nurture your soul. Remember, you are worthy of respect, honesty, and genuine care. Never settle for less.